This is Kevin Pruitt with Rising Tide Startups. We've got another exciting episode for you today, and my guest today is Derek Bouza. Derek, welcome to Rising Tide Startups.
Hi, thank you.
It's good to have you. So give us a little bit of background on who is Derek Bouza.
Well, Derek Bouza was born in Miami, Florida. About 8 years ago, I came to Nashville, Tennessee. I've spent years here. Now I own, my first home. Started my business here. Before that, I was doing, call center work, stuff that was totally not related to drones before it came out. But yeah, in Nashville, I played the guitar some, that's my hobby. Other than that, I'm flying drones. So
how did you move? You said your background, your family background is Cuban in Miami, and you moved from Miami to Nashville when?
I would say that was in 2009.
So what was the impetus for moving? Was it to chasing the music dream or?
No, a funny story actually. Right before that, I spent a little time with my mother who lives in Northern Virginia, and my brother had already lived here in Nashville at that point. And in July 12th of 2009, I was visiting my brother here in Nashville, and I was flying back. I was on that Southwest airplane flight 2294 where the roof exploded off the top at like 38,000 feet.
Wow.
So after that, I just sort of stayed in Nashville after that. I just ended up in Nashville after that. So it was a disaster, which made me stay here in Nashville. So if it weren't for that, I may have still been living in Virginia.
Okay, my listeners are going to be really angry at me if I just kind of fly on by that one.
Sure.
I mean, you're the first person I've ever met that, lived through a midair disaster. So can you describe that for us a little bit?
Well, I was flying on an airplane, just sitting, reading one of those Sky Mall magazines, where they talk about the craziest inventions.
Yeah, yeah.
and I was reading about an automatic cat feeder. And at that time, I didn't have any cats. Now we have two. But I was thinking to myself, man, if I ever had a cat, I would invest in this. And right when I had that thought, the top of the roof exploded off, and, the magazine went out. Everything, dirt went out the top of the roof. It was a good hole. I mean, a pretty good hole. And I was pretty sure my life was over at that point because I thought it was a terrorist attack flying from Nashville up north. But it just turned out to be that there was some structural cracks in the airplane that caused it to blow out. But, the scariest part was not when the hole blew up, but when it was going to the ground from like 38,000 feet to the ground in a matter of minutes and just getting that roller coaster feeling.
Yep. Yeah, I imagine pilot wanted to get that plane on the ground.
Yes, yeah. So, but we all survived. It was just a traumatic experience, and it's a great
story to tell.
I guess now
to tell your grandchildren.
Yeah.
So, how close were you to the hole?
Oh, right. The hole was right over my head, like I was the chosen one.
Wow.
It was right over my head. It was insane.
Would it have been if you were, let's say if a flight attendant was standing up, or if you were standing up at the time, would it have been, potentially disastrous? Or
yes, because when I had my seatbelt on and I felt the, like something was trying to pull me up, but I remember too is the amount of dirt that came from the seats and the floor, and it started slow, like this quick, and then tornadoed out of the top of the plane with a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it was just ridiculous, and I thought the plane was just going to break apart.
Yeah, yeah.
But we landed.
You and everybody else on the plane, I imagine, thought the same thing.
Yeah, and I've flown several times. I was on the Amazon in Peru just like a month ago doing drone documentary work. So flying out of Iquitos, Peru was crazy. There was a lot of turbulence there, and that made me scary. But
yeah. Wow. So did everybody clap when the plane hit the ground?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was definitely, I was definitely happy to be alive.
Well, I could literally spend the next 30 minutes of our interview just talking about that, but I
Sure.
do want to give you a chance as well to kind of explain to our listeners the background of Ninth Planet Media, but give me a 1-minute elevator pitch of your business. If you and I are on an elevator going down 10 floors, explain Ninth Planet Media.
Sure. Ninth Planet Media is what we do is try and advertise other businesses by using aerial videography or photography. We started with drones and now we're actually doing DSLR work, doing real estate. So it's not just only drones, but what we do is show a different perspective. I mean, a picture is 1,000 words,
Hmm.
and when you take it, a couple 100 feet up, it just changes everything. So, if you have construction, all real estate, commercial real estate, private real estate, weddings, there's drones could be used in many different things now. I mean, if you just watched a television, within a minute, you're probably going to see some sort of drone footage.
So what's
So
you said a drone or a what was the other that you
a,
mentioned?
a DSLR, that's just a camera,
Just a digital. Okay.
like a Nikon camera.
Okay, and that, but you're still talking from an aerial perspective or just anywhere?
Well, the drone is just from an aerial perspective. The Nikon is just for, inside real estate, trying to sell homes and stuff. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
not really that's just something that we recently added
Okay. All right.
instead of
Yeah.
just being only drones,
It's not an either or. It's a both and type thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I could tell you why, because a lot in real estate, people want to hire a drone person and then go hire just a photography. If somebody could
Hmm.
hire somebody who has the whole package, it's a lot easier that way.
So is real estate kind of your focus, or is this just? Do you do
Uh,
what percentage of your business do you do that is related to real estate?
Real estate is probably about 80% of what I do.
Okay.
But then I also do crazy like documentary
Sure.
work that's just, like the Peru thing.
Hmm.
That I've been to Peru. This was the second time in 6 months to finish a documentary there. And I'm just a drone guy. But then when I come back, it's real estate and yeah, basically real estate. And then sometimes I get jobs that have special lunches and want an overview, like a photo of
Right.
everyone, all their employees outside, stuff like that. But it's crazy. I get a lot of crazy requests with drones.
What's Nashville's a really hot real estate market too right
It
now. I mean,
is.
it's just exploding, and
It is.
it's funny that we're talking today. We had our interview scheduled today, but I was just reading something on Facebook yesterday about just the different, maybe as even this morning, about the regulations, how quickly they change for drone pilots.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a continually updated. So just staying on top of just the regulations would be, a full
That
time job.
For sure. It's the FAA is always changing. I mean, you always have to be on top of it. A matter of fact, last week the FAA themselves called me on the phone just to make sure that my operations were that I was functioning legally,
Right.
and I was doing everything and but they do that. But I also agree with them becoming a little more strict because there's also those people that just order a drone and don't care about the safety and could put others in
Sure.
danger.
Sure.
And that gives people a bad name that are really trying to be responsible and start a business using drones. Now there is a hobbyist side of drones and then there's a commercial side where you
Right.
have to get a special license called a Part 107.
Which is virtually a pilot's license. I mean, it's
No,
very similar.
what I started with was a an exemption 333, and with that one, that was in 2015. I started with that one where you actually had to have a certified pilot there at the flight, which I had to do. And
Okay.
then the Part 107 is just they made it more easier because all the drone pilots were like, wait, so I have to actual be able to fly a plane to fly a drone, and people are like, oh, that doesn't really make sense. So the FAA made it easier to fly a plane.
Right.
So it's just easier to become a drone pilot.
Yeah. And that, I mean, in some ways that makes sense, but it is good that there are standards that kind of protect those of you that are really trying to do this commercially and do it well and do it up to certain
Yes.
standards and safety standards as well.
Yes.
So tell me what would you say would be your lowest point since you started your business?
I'd say my lowest point would have been and around the end of 2015, 2016, because just building a client base
Mm-hmm.
was really hard. There's a lot of photographers there, I know many photographers, but when you try to sell your business with drones, especially at the
Right.
ground floor, it was sort of hard. But what helped me out is, I joined some of these Facebook page community pages and told them what I did, and then it sort of spread. So then that's what got me out of that bad point. But
Mm-hmm.
you really have to pay. When I started this business, like, the best thing I did was not give up. I mean, there was so many times where, like, oh, I don't think this is going to be worth it, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do all this. Drones are very expensive, the thousands of dollars for one drone. Am I going to be able to do this? But I didn't give up, and now I'm here doing a lot better. So, but yeah, that was a hard point, not knowing your future.
Well, let's transition from that difficult point at the end of 2015, beginning 2016. Is what would you say would be your highest high that you've experienced in your business since then?
My highest high would probably be just being hired to do, HBO documentaries, and just knowing, getting that feeling that I'm really getting above the rest, because right now, and especially at that time too, I was not the only one trying to start a drone business. I mean,
Sure.
this is a saturated market.
Mm-hmm.
So to get that satisfaction, to show my work and actually get more work because of it, that's probably my best feeling. But that really happened. It went from being down low, and then it spread like wildfire. So then a few months later, I was like, oh, well, this is actually going to work out, I think,
Wow. Plus
So
the fact that you've got that now in your resume that says, or in your portfolio that says, hey, I've actually done HBO documentaries, and this is something that everyone you talk to is going to know exactly what you're talking about when you
this,
say
yes.
HBO. So
This year, I also flew in Europe. I flew in Switzerland and Prague. So I did some drone stuff over there. But yeah, it's great. I love waking up and going to work, you know, doing what I do, because
yeah,
it's like it's what I enjoy doing.
we lived in Western Europe for about 12 years, and
Okay.
with my family, and I don't know if there's a prettier place on the planet than Switzerland. I mean, the
Switzerland
mountains
is
in
is
Switzerland are, it's like they vacuumed the streets, I mean, the whole place is clean. It's
yeah,
just,
no,
the cows are clean.
it's beautiful, and the drone footage I got from there is just breathtaking. I mean, flying it right over the mountains there. We took three ski lifts up to a top of a mountain and took off from like 10,000 feet.
Wow.
So
Were you near
yeah,
the Matterhorn on some of the,
no, no, we weren't near there. We're more north of what was that town? Basel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My two, just a little side note, my two older kids actually went to high school right in that corner where Germany and France and Switzerland meet. So very, very,
Okay.
very close to where you were, kind of in the Black
Okay.
Forest region
Yeah. Okay.
of
Okay.
Germany. But yeah, we've been there many, many times. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
It is. It really is beautiful, and I always tell people who haven't been there that they have to make it out there.
Yeah.
They have to make it out there.
Well, it's especially good when somebody pays your way, to go
Yeah,
out there and
for sure,
and do your job. So
for sure.
that's great. So tell me, we kind of talked about the low points and the high points, but are there one or two like pain points or obstacles or hurdles that you run into, currently in your business that maybe our listeners could speak into? That's, it's kind of the basic premise of our podcast is we want to give, businesses a chance to promote themselves, but we also want to proactively draw our listenership in to speak into, the pain points that our guests mention on the podcast. So give me one or two things that you think are kind of pain points that our listeners might be able to provide feedback for.
Well, this sounds the FAA is sort of a pain
You
point.
want our listeners to fix the FAA?
Yeah, the FAA, and the only reason I say that, nothing against FAA, but the reason I say that is because as a professional drone pilot, you have to get waivers to fly in certain areas. And a few months ago, you would just simply call the airport and tell them what you're doing. And most of the time they were like, yeah, we don't care. It was almost like that attitude. Now we're not supposed to call the airport. We have to do it online through the FAA website, and it takes a long time to approve versus just calling them and speaking to the guy saying that, he doesn't care. But the problem with that is now when I have clients that need jobs done pretty quickly, I'm sitting around waiting for the FAA to come up with a decision. And, I've run into that problem here uh, more and more, as the time is going by, as they're changing the laws and, FAA, and then they came back and said, yes, you do have to register your drone. So it's like you have to really keep up on that. As you said before, it's almost a separate full-time job just to keep up with FAA.
Are there, this is a little side note, I'm just thinking through, are there services out there that, or say networks or associations for drone pilots like yourself that they would keep up for these, with these regulations for you and just notify you when changes are made type thing? Or are you really just kind of a lone wolf out there on your own?
No, I'm part of a lot of groups on social media that are just for drones. I mean, there's a Nashville drone user group also, and there's a lot of knowledgeable people in the industry. And also the FAA, they email you.
Right. I guess you're a registered drone pilot with them, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So they'll let me know if something is changing, but it happens a lot. But at the same time, this is a new industry. They have to have some sort of guidelines. So they have to start from somewhere. So, it's a little agitating on my part just because if I was running a business that had nothing to do with FAA or, it might be a little easier maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, that's definitely a small pain, I'd say.
What would be another pain point that might be a little more broad that, we can't fix the FAA regulation system, but
a pain point to me right now is the winter time too, because business in the winter slows down when it comes to drone flying. Things aren't as lush. So I actually spent I was in Peru just for our winter most of the time, but other winters, before that, it gets really hard, especially in photography. I don't know if you've had other photographers on your show, but, I think the change in seasons. Also, I've noticed that real estate slows down in the winter time.
True. I bet that's
so
really true.
That affects me too. When it's freezing, people don't like to go look at houses and, it's just they don't want to do that. So yeah, winter time is a hard time for me.
That's a great. I mean, I even, my entrepreneurial gears are spinning on things that I may even add some feedback to the feedback forum this week. But
Sure.
That's a great question, and I think that will really get the creative juices flowing of our listeners. So I'm anxious to see what they come back with. So
yeah, so I just I have to just to keep that going, just to so every year that goes by, it will get, maybe more and more busy just by more clients that I'm picking up for other jobs.
Yeah.
So,
and I do think that there are other industries that are very seasonal, like even say tourist type industries that you may be able to garner some wisdom from that says, how did they make, balance out their year when they have feast months and famine months, that type
Sure.
of thing. So how can you balance out your calendar? So, but I'll be anxious to see what our listeners come back with. But Derek, as we're heading into the kind of our final section of the interview, it's a section I like to call the Life Quad section, and quad being kind of 4 questions that are really diving deeper into who Derek Bouza is. So
Sure.
Tell me who online would be somebody that you really are inspired by, that you follow?
Somebody online that is a big inspiration to me, his name is Nick Brown. Now, Nick Brown runs Drone Boys. That's the name of his company, Drone Boys. And, he was somebody who I was watching when I started my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just his knowledge and his business ethics, how he took his drone company from the ground to a worldwide company. I mean, Drone Boys is in several different countries, and I've just followed all of his stuff and watched him speak and his knowledge on drones. He's definitely a smart guy in the industry, and he's definitely somebody who pushed me to get to where. And now I've never spoken to him personally, but he just has that effect, and he writes online. If you ever have questions about drones or need to speak with somebody,
Right.
about anything, contact me. And that's what I like in people. He's very open, and I've found some drone business owners that are very like standoffish,
Hmm.
and they just don't want to
Very
discuss it.
competitive, and
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And he's just somebody that I really appreciated because he's made, just from his own business, such a big network of, and I know it's not just me. His company, Drone Boys, has gotten a lot of people into the drone
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
So
Well, that's good. We'll put the website for that in the notes.
sure,
Another thing I want to kind of a little quick side note is that any video clips that you have that you think our listeners would really love to see,
for
send those
sure.
to me, and I'll make sure those are in the show notes as well. And just to kind of give them a little bit of your certainly your website will be there, but just to give them a little exposure, on something that say, hey, this is a clip that I just made that just is a 10 out of 10, just dazzles me when I
Yeah,
look at it. So
I got a few things that I'll send over to you.
right, it'd be great to see those.
Sure.
So tell me what's like one life quote that you really like to it's many of us like tape them up on our computer and we're looking at them every day type thing. So what's one quote that you really want to kind of fasten your life after?
My quote is, "Do what you love, and you'll never work another day in your life."
I really like that one too. I've got that
I,
somewhere.
yes, that's it's just it's nice. I went to call center work 9 to 5, and it's just like, oh, you wake up in the morning, you're just like, oh man, I need to work in this call center, and now it's like I'm running my own business, so I'm not. It's like I'm just doing what I love.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
good.
that's yeah.
That's good. That's a great quote, and we'll certainly include that in the show notes as well. So tell me, what's one piece of advice that you would give Derek Bouza pre 2014 or 2015, whenever you started Ninth Planet Media? What's one that now that you would go back and tell yourself?
I would go back and tell myself just to, stay focused on the goal more than what other people are doing with their type of business,
Mm,
like other drone businesses. Because at the beginning, I found myself really worried about what other people were doing,
yeah,
and I believe everyone is smart enough. If they're building their own business, you have the power to be your own person and to start this. This is your baby egg. No one is going to tell you what you're going to do with it. And there's failure. I've had failure at the beginning, and I could also tell myself not to take failure so bad, because in the long run, it's a good thing, in my opinion. You know what you did
mm,
at this point years ago, and now you know better.
yeah.
So I took that a little hard, failure at the beginning, but it all turned around. It's hard. It was a hard quest
That
to.
that reminds me. I was watching a movie last night with my wife about Winston Churchill, The Darkest Hour. That's just come out
Yeah,
recently, and I think that it ends with a quote that I'm going to really badly paraphrase, but it talks about fear is not like lethal and failure is not like eternal or something like that.
exactly.
Failure is not fatal. I think is what the quote is. So that would be sage advice to go back and give
Yeah.
yourself for a few years ago. So is there anything else that I haven't touched on that you really want to share with our listening audience?
Not really, but I would actually like to show off maybe a couple drones
Oh,
that
we'd love to see that. And I'm sorry, the podcast, guests, you're not going to get this. You're going to have to go to YouTube to really get the full effect of this one. So,
this is
what's that
a
transformer?
this is actually a racing drone, and these go about 90 miles an hour.
Wow.
And this was built completely from scratch. Here's the battery, and all the components go in the middle here. You just use a soldering iron, and just order and put the pieces together. It takes a couple months, And
So how do you keep that from just blowing apart when you run into a wall or something?
they blow apart.
You don't.
Yeah, no, you don't. If you run into something, it's a yard sale. Like everything goes everywhere.
I love that
And
yard sale. I've seen that on ESPN actually. The
yeah, the
drone
drone
races.
racing. Yeah, so
I actually get sick watching it.
you put these goggles on, and so you actually could see from the drone. See, there's a tiny camera there
Wow,
on
I
the
see that.
front.
Yeah.
So that's FPV, first person view.
Mm.
So that's pretty exciting. I do that more. I will send you a clip though. This actually, I have done actual drone work with the racing drone at a drift car event.
Wow,
So,
that'd be
so
good.
that's exciting. And this is actually one of my
It's more your
video.
commercial drones, yeah.
Yeah, this is. I have it all taped up now because I transported it from Peru. It's got to be stable, but
Mm-hmm.
this is more of like a professional drone, and this is actually a lower end professional drone. I have another one that's being sent back because it needed a repair, but it has a gimbal which keeps it very steady. That's how you get the smooth video.
Kind of like the shock mount for a microphone or something. Like
Exactly. It's all about keeping the video smooth, and what you're paying for in the drone world is how much payload it could lift, because if you have a drone that could lift a big DSLR camera,
mm-hmm.
that's a lot to pull up, but with one of these you're getting a way better shot
Yep.
than
Yep.
what the camera comes on the drone. So
how
but
high
yeah,
will that drone go? And how far, what's the range in height and range away from where you with your controller?
legally you're only supposed to go to 400 feet.
How can you say that without smiling?
Well,
Legally.
yeah, legally you have to keep it at 400 or below, or then the FAA will call you if you post anything online. So, but they'll go like 2,000 to 3,000 feet.
Wow.
And this one will go about 4 miles away, and if it's clear. I tested the limits in Peru, and I went with my other drone. I went about 4 miles away because on the Amazon there's no drone laws.
So will it tell you when you get to its range? Will it tell you, or does it just like hover, fall out of the sky? What happens when it runs out of range?
For any reason, if it loses range from you, the drone will automatically come back and land right where it took off from.
Wow.
So if there's anything that goes wrong, the drone knows. It's all from GPS. It's
Right.
locking on GPS satellites. So anything that goes wrong, it'll come back and land, right in front of you. Now, you have to watch your battery life. Battery life is about 30 minutes on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I never go to 30 minutes. I try and bring it back at like 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
So
Just to make sure that you're, because that would fall out of the sky, I would imagine, if it just goes dead.
oh, if they go dead, yeah, it's just gonna fall out of the sky. Luckily, that's not happened to me because I don't run them
Right.
down. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
So
if you're on the river and you're like you have the controller in a boat and you move, does it follow you or does it just go back to where it took off from?
that has happened before to a lot of people. When you're moving the drone, if you lose connection, you have to keep it close because it will go back and land from where you took it off from, and then it'll land in the water.
Right. Right.
So and that definitely has happened to a few people that I know. So you have to be very careful, when you're following a boat or something like that. I've been in this situation. I was on another boat, following a boat, flying the drone to record the boat in front of us, and after the shoot, you just have to land it and catch the drone out of the sky.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's a major thing is battery life. If
Right.
you run out of battery where you're far away, there's nothing that you could do. It's going to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, this has been a great interview. I could talk to you all day about this because it's an area that I just am very interested in, but I know so little about, and I know our listeners are going to really enjoy this episode and probably just hit you up for more information and as they have weddings and other events that come up that would be, they might just get in touch with you and see if they could make something happen. But so tell me, just as we close here, how can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact with you? What's your web presence?
Well, I have a website, www.ninthplanetmedia.com, all spelled out. And
Okay.
then I'm also on Facebook at Ninth Planet Media. I'm also on Instagram at Ninth Planet Media. My personal Instagram tag is Derek's Ariel.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well, we'll list all those in the show notes. And so, Derek, just thank you again for your time today, and just really appreciate that. It's been a joy talking to you, and I know that our listeners are going to draw a lot of value from this. And thanks again for the kind of the pre-interview promo you gave us that said, you've listened to the other episodes and we'll continue to listen to those too as well. So
for sure,
it's
for
good
sure.
that you're a client as well. So Derek,
Likewise, I'm very happy that I was able to do this, and thank you very much.
yeah, it's been good having you. Derek, have a great day. And listeners, it's your chance to speak into this. We've heard a couple of pain points, and would love for you to speak in because, as Derek kind of outlined, it is a chance that we can all kind of help each other. And as our motto says, all boats rise in a rising tide. Derek, thanks again.
Thank you.